Hello, Nick here, to teach you all how to write a contract. So here you have a buyer who wants to purchase a certain type of property. So congratulations, first of all. You'll notice here I have my contracts written up here on the screen. And there's, depending on the type of property, there's lots of different contracts you can use. For the most part, the one we do the most are condo contracts, so we're going to start with that. So you got a condo contract here. If your client was buying an investment home, like a 2 to 4 flat, you'd investment contract. Or if they're buying a single family home, you'd use the single family home contract. If you're out in the suburbs, there's a different type of contract called the multi-board, which is about 13 pages, and it's pretty much the same that we're going to go over today. But for simplicity's sake, we'll just do the condo contract. So let's open this sucker up. So the first thing I do when I meet with a client and we have a contract in front of them is I tell them, look how easy it is. It's pretty much, you'll see, it's 4 pages long. 1, 2, 3, 4. And page 4 is pretty much just boilerplate. So in essence, it's really 3 pages long. And you'll notice it's fill in the blank. Everything that you see here is already pre-drawn up, and all you have to do is fill in the blanks. So you pretty much can offer a Twinkie and a ho-ho for a piece of property. Doesn't mean they'll accept it, but that's what you can do. In addition, I tell all my clients that these contracts are written in favor of the buyer. There's a lot of things on this contract to protect you, the buyer, and as the realtor, makes them happy to know that they can get out of the deal quite easily, even though it's already an accepted contract. So if you can, take out a notepad and a piece of pen or a paper, and we'll get started here. So obviously, paragraph 1, this contract is between the buyer and the seller. Important, you learn this in real estate school. If you are the buyer or if you are the seller, you need to write your name there, and you need to write that you are a licensed Illinois real estate agent. The property PIN number is what's basically called the Social Security number for the property. You can find this on the MLS listing sheets, or you can find it on the Cook County Treasurer's website by searching by the address, and you can put the PIN number there. You obviously don't need to put the square footage, and the parking spot number, obviously, if you know it, is important as well. Also, if it's included, if it's a deeded parking spot, limited common element, assigned, indoor or outdoor. And then you put down the parking PIN number. If you want to go over more information about parking pins and whatnot, just contact me and I'll be happy to explain that to you. Paragraph 2, fixtures and personal property. This is important because many times I've had clients never mark this important things like the fireplace screener equipment, or they did not place, marked lighting fixtures. And then what happens is at the closing table, we do the final walkthrough, and oops, all the lighting fixtures have gone, but yet nobody marked the lighting fixtures would be included in the sale. Another thing I've seen that happens a lot is realtors mark every single one, and then they just cross out what ones are not included after the contract signed. I would not advise this because if there's in a multiple bid situation, the other seller could say, hey, this is too much work, this guy's crazy. So know what you know, fill out as much as you can. If you're unsure, I would fill it out, but I wouldn't fill out everything. Line 21, seller also transfers the following. This is if you really enjoyed their sound system, if you really liked their TV, if you liked their dog. Seller transfers the following, you put that there. The following items are excluded. This is if you did not want their chandelier, or if you did not want something that was attached. Most common here is a refrigerator in the basement. Paragraph 3, purchase price. That's pretty much self-explanatory. Paragraph 4, I get a lot of questions on. This is all about the earnest money. Earnest money usually comes in rounds of 2. The first round of earnest money is called the good faith money, meaning, hey, here's my contract, and I'm going to give you $1,000 to show you that I'm in good faith going to purchase this property. So with that, you write here, upon buyer's execution of this contract, buyer shall deposit with, who's going to hold the earnest money? 9 out of 10 times the person who holds the earnest money is the listing agent's company. If they don't want to hold the earnest money, either we can hold it for your buyer, or you can have your attorney hold it, or the title company. And then you got a blank here. Like I said, everything is blank, but typically earnest money is the amount of $1,000 in the form of, for the most part, personal check. if you're doing a deal with a bank, they're going to want to see probably a cashier's check or a money order. Now your initial earnest money is deposited, the contract is signed by both parties, you're good to go. Now you have your second round of earnest money, which we're going to review right here. The earnest money shall return and this contract shall be null and void if the contract is not accepted by the seller on or before the certain date. You can always put a date about 24 hours to 48 hours. Doesn't really matter. Do you think timelines matter? Not really. The initial earnest money shall be increased to blank percentage of the purchase price within blank business days after the expiration date of the attorney approval period. So we're going to get into that a little farther down in our talkings, but basically as long as the attorney, the home inspector, and the buyer are still confident that they're going to purchase this property, the second round of earnest money is due. Now, the more you put down, the more collateral is there, the better the seller feels. The more your buyer has to lose if they decide one day before the closing date to walk away. So the more, the better for the seller, the less, the better for the buyer. So if you're in a multiple bid situation, you probably want to put a little bit more. 10%, which they advise on the contract, is very rare. 5%, I don't really see that much. I usually see between $5,000 or $10,000 depending on the purchase price. Should justify. If you're pretty much the only party into the transaction, start with a low number and see if the seller comes back with negotiations. So let's say you put $1,000 down now, and then you say $5,000 will be due within 2 business days after the attorney and the buyer all decide that everything is great and dandy with the property. Now, that means $1,000 down now, $5,000 total. So you put $1,000 now, then $4,000, equaling $5,000 at that due date. This money goes towards the purchase price. So in the simple form, if the property is going for $200,000, you put down $5,000 in earnest money, you only need to walk to the closing table with a check for $195,000. Again, that's simple as terms. Okay, any questions on that? Just let me know. It's very simple. Don't overthink it. So now we're going to get to the point here why the contract is written on behalf of the buyer and favors the buyer. There are 3 things here that protect you, the buyer. Number 1 is the mortgage contingency, which we'll get to second, but the first 2 more important ones, I would say, are the attorney review period and the inspection. So we'll start with the inspection. I basically tell my clients you wouldn't buy a car without test driving it first. So here, let's say the contract is accepted, everyone agrees to an offer of $200,000. You submit the $1,000 earnest money. Within the typical time frame is 5 business days after the acceptance date, buyer will get a home inspection. And basically, the home inspector will go to the property with the buyer. I recommend that you, the real estate agent, will be there as well. And you test everything out in the property. For a condo, it's kind of silly. You turn on the faucets, you look at the electrical box, you open and close the blinds. It's basically seeing what's in there, and the buyer's learning about his new home. Within that 5 business days, remember it's business days, so if the contract signs on a Thursday, that means the first business day is Friday. So then you have Friday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So basically almost 7 full days to complete that home inspection. Now let's say the inspector comes back and says the dishwasher is broken and the patio door is broken. Then you come back here to your attorney period, where you contact your attorney and you tell him, we just had our home inspection, which by the way, for a condo, costs about $250 to $350. For a single-family home, you're looking at about $400 to $500. So you go to your attorney with this inspection report. And you say, Mr. Attorney, I'm very happy with the property, but I want to get a $1,000 credit for the patio door being broken. The attorney says, great. So within 5 business days after the acceptance date, yet again another escape clause, the attorney has to review the contract. And he can pretty much review and change everything other than the purchase price, the broker's compensation, and the dates of the contract. And for the most part, he can even change that as well. He writes a letter to the seller's attorney and says, because it's a condo, number 1, I want all the information on the condo board, minute meetings, budget bylaws, any special assessments coming up. And number 2, we had our home inspection and we want $1,000 for the patio door that's broken. So almost a second round of negotiations. If this all fails and breaks down, and they say, I'm not going to give you any money for the patio door, and we have a $10,000 special assessment for new windows in the lobby, then based on your contract here under earnest money, your buyer can back out of the deal for whatever reason, as long as it's during that 5 business day period. Basically, the escape clause. Yet again, let's say everything is good. They give you the $1,000. The contract is good to go. The condo association is good. Then you would submit your final round of earnest money. The third thing here that protects you as the buyer that you should tell your clients is the mortgage contingency. Basically, the contract is contingent upon your client securing a loan by a certain date. This is typically 30 days. And they have line 34 here. They have to see how much rate they're getting. And instead of dollar amounts, I like to put loan to value amount. So if they're getting putting down 20%, that means 80% loan to value or 80% LTV. Number 35, interest rate now actually see blank per year over a blank period of years. I always do this over a 30-year period, and interest rates now are just hovering under 4%. So basically how this reads is your buyer has 30 days from the date of the contract to secure a loan for, let's say, 80% of the value. Interest rates not to exceed 4% over 30 years. Typically, they're not going to pay a loan fee, and they're probably not going to have a balloon payment. So you just leave those blank or you write NA. Now, let's say your client on the 29th day has not secured a loan commitment for this property. Go back to the attorney, and the attorney will write a letter. And he'll say, Mr. Seller, my client needs 2 more weeks to secure a loan. Otherwise, he's going to have to declare this contract null and void. 99.9% of the time, the seller will say, okay, we will give you that grant. 2 more weeks go by and you cannot secure the loan based on 80% over, let's say you put 4.25% down. You can actually, based on this information, try to get out of the deal and get all your earnest money back. Oops, sorry about that, guys. You get all your earnest money back. Now, in order to do that, the seller has a loophole to try to secure a loan for you based on the information you wrote down. Once again, 80%, not to exceed 4.25%. So if the seller either 1 cannot get that for you, or 1 or 2 says, hey, no way, I'm not going to do that, then you get your money back. So we got the attorney review period, home inspection, and mortgage contingency as escape clauses to help your buyer feel better that they can purchase this property, and really that earnest money is safe. In 10 years in this business, I've never had anybody lose their earnest money doing a deal. They're always able to back out of it for whatever reason. Okay, let's move on to paragraph 6, possession. This is the closing date, basically. And sometimes what happens is at the closing, the seller does not move out of the property. So in essence, you are buying the property, or your client is, and the seller is still staying in the property. Thus, you need to be compensated. So seller shall pay buyer at closing blank amount per day, kind of like you're the landlord and they're tenants now. This is typically based on what's called PITI, or principal, interest, taxes, and insurance per day. I always like to put an absurd figure here, maybe like $200 or $300, because that is kind of an annoying fact when that happens. In addition, if that happens, there needs to be a possession escrow, which is 2% of the purchase price, meaning at the closing date, the seller will put away 2% of the purchase price into an escrow account, typically held at the title company, where it'll be held until 2 or 3 days after the seller moves out and the buyer takes possession, bearing nothing is wrong. Pretty much like a security deposit for a rental. 9 out of 10 times this, or even 99 out of 100 times, this is not even a factor, but when it is, just good to know about it. Paragraph 7, your closing date. That's pretty typical. For the most part, you're looking, if you're getting a loan, 3 weeks to 4 weeks is pretty much the soonest you can get anything done. We just had a closing here that was, I think, 120 days out. So what, again, it's fill in the blank, so everything is negotiable. The deed, this is basically, remember from your real estate classes, general warranty deeds is what you get. Paragraph 9, real estate taxes. This is very interesting. I always explain this to all my clients. In 1932, I believe, the city of Chicago halted property taxes for 1 full year to help people get back on their feet from the Depression. Because of that, we always pay our taxes in what's called arrears, meaning you always pay 1 year prior. So what happens is the seller represents that right now we're in 2013, that the 2012 or 2011 real estate taxes are this amount. Now you'll be living in the property and you'll get your tax bill, say in October or November, from when the previous owner lived in the property. So what happens is the seller will credit you the money back. So let's say it was $10,000 in taxes, and you're going to get credited back $10,000 plus a percentage which you negotiate, typically 5 to 10% of that. So in case, death and taxes usually go up. So you want to make sure you're covered so when that tax bill comes out where you didn't live in the property that you have enough money there to cover you. Any questions on that, let me know. I can get into fuller detail about real estate taxes in Cook County, but that's another whole section on its own. Paragraph 10 is because you're buying into a condo, there's usually a condo association. So you put here your monthly assessments are this. It has a special assessment has or not been levied, so you cross out has if one has not been levied. The original amount of the special assessment is this, and the remaining amount will be this. I always like to cross this out. So if there is one, it shall not be assumed by the buyer. All buyers are interested in line 87, which basically reads within 2 business days of acceptance, the seller is going to get you what's called a 22.1 disclosure, pretty much 18 questions about the condo association, anything, basically the A through Z of everything that's going on with the financials, and almost everything that's going on in the building that your seller and buyer can review if they so feel inclined. Paragraph 11, disclosures. Buyer has received the following disclosures. These are typically on the MLS listing sheet, or you can ask the listing agent to get you them before you sign the contract. Now, if you do not receive them, leave these blank. It is almost ridiculous to mark them all no, and then as soon as you get a signed contract, you have to go back and mark them yes and then initial over the bubble. So just mark them no if you have not received them. Mark them yes if you have received them. Paragraph 12, if you're filling this out with your buyer client, this is not applicable. Just means dual agency, which you all know about. We already went over 13. We already went over 14. 15 is the last one we'll go over. General provisions and riders. You can find riders in our forms, but the most typical rider are home sale contingency riders. My client needs to sell his home before he can purchase this home. You can also have pretty crazy riders, like this home is contingent upon my client's mother seeing the property and enjoying it. This property is contingent upon my dogs having fun in the backyard. Anything you can think of, you can put there. You have your offer date at line 130, your buyer's information obviously here, and this is, I guess this is the most important here, your buyer's broker information. So you get credit and you get paid for this property by having all your information there. I didn't talk about this, but your buyer's attorney, you don't have to have that now, but if you need any attorney recommendations, let us know. We will help you out. For the most part, an attorney on the buy side will cost between $400 and $600. So that's pretty much it for the contract. If you have any questions, just let me know, and hopefully this was thorough enough for you.